Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to part 3 of episode 3 of Discussion Points. I'm proud to be joined by Cale Vickery, fresh off a first place victory at the Perth City Championships this weekend. Welcome, Cale.
Hey,
We're going to be chatting, not for too long tonight, hopefully. I don't want to keep you too late, but we're going to be chatting about your first place finish, the deck that you played, your thoughts on the metagame going in, your thoughts on the metagame for the rest of the season, and your plans for the rest of the season too. I'm really quite keen to get into this actually because you are the first Night March player that I have interviewed, and just for our audience, can you tell me the exact deck you were playing?
Night March Melodic.
Thank you. And on my screen, unfortunately, you can't see it, but we do have the 19 players that attended the City Championships, and we have their decks. And what I'd like to do is sort of chat to you about this first of all. Is there any deck in the field, or is there any deck in particular that you were expecting to be quite popular at Perth?
I was expecting Mega Mewtwo to be huge, whereas I expected Zero ZYG, and I didn't expect Toad, but somehow that multiplied.
And I want to chat to you as well, if you can remember, about your matchups during the day. Do you by chance remember your matchups from the day?
Yeah, I got incredibly lucky in Swiss.
Can you tell me about that?
First round got a player which was really just there for numbers, but she played it out. And then round 2, brand new player, again just there for numbers. Round 3, I hit Andrew Rowe. Oh, those head ringers. Crazy. Round 3, I hit a local player. She's trying to go for invite this year, but still a new player. Playing Doug Trier. Oh, and I forgot to say Andrew was playing Monatric. Crobat. Doug Trier was annoying because she always managed to hit 60 and would focus sashes on my pump caboose. So it was a very uphill battle, but Startling for the win. Well, in the end, it was a tie because game 2 she knew I had the Startling. And then after that, I hit a Sean with Giratina Fairies, which I had taken out my 06 and was not prepared for Giratina. I didn't think anyone would run it because it hadn't been played locally for a little bit. But I was just able to outspeed him, and that's all that mattered.
And how about your top cup matchups? I know in the finals that you did end up playing Alex, but who were your top 8 and top 4 opponents?
Okay, top 8 was Dan, and he judged me or red carded me every turn. But somehow I always managed to draw the card I needed, which is, I played to hopefully draw everything, but it was quite surprising that every time I did. So he didn't really stand a chance when I draw that well, whereas he was missing the DCE because he judged himself, etc. And then top 4 was against Scott. Game 1, we both started dead drawing, and then he ditched most of his energy and just couldn't come back. Game 2, I just was hitting 180 turn 1, just ran through it. And then it comes to Alex, which was, it went to 3 games, but had good starts every time. Oh, sorry. Not good starts every time, but I was able to get there, get going.
You mentioned earlier that you were expecting a lot of Mega Mewtwo and cards like Seismitoad to not be very popular. Do you think that because of the results of things like Melbourne and the Tasmanian doubles the weekend before, do you think that that influenced the metagame?
No, I think I just read the meta wrong. Everyone was trying to target down Mega Mewtwo, so that's why I ran Toad. I wasn't looking quite deep enough. But yeah, I don't think Melbourne had much of an effect other than my deck, I guess. Because the night before I was between Mega Mewtwo, Night March with Vesper Queen, and then Night March Molotov.
You mentioned Night March Vesperpin. Of course, it has had extreme success in the first week of the City Championships and very varying success ever since. Do you feel like the Milotic version of the deck is the overall best way to play Night March? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, Molotov is absolutely broken. Like, it's so good. And I don't know if the Vesper Queen was kind of flooded by the fact that Michael Kahn's just such a good player. But for instance, if I had the Vesper Queen version, I may have had an easier time dealing with all the toads. So it kind of depends on the matter.
And why do you say that Milotic is broken? Is there a specific instance in the metagame that you think it really benefits from?
Oh, it's just guaranteeing that. Well, it's not guaranteed, but people just don't seem to kill it. Only one person really targeted it down. And when you can just get any card from your discard, which is most of the cards, just being able to Dimension Valley if you're out of them, DCs, it means you can do more 2-hits when you're getting knocked out every turn. You can afford to do that more often.
It's very true. I would like to talk to you a little more about your list now. The two interesting cards I would like to chat to you about are the inclusion of Town Map and Target Whistle. I'd like to talk about Town Map first because it seems to me, and in my episode last night, I spoke to Shane, Nathan, and Ruben, and they all told me that Town Map would probably be their 61st or 62nd card that they would include in their deck. Is there a reason that it made it into your list over other cards?
A bit of habit, and I was looking at lists and people still had it, and it came very handy. One game I actually managed to prize 2 DC and 2 Melodic at the same time. So it just lets you get out of difficult situations as long as you get to play it before item block.
And Target Whistle is, I suppose, a meta pick card, and I imagine that you chose it not expecting to play against quite a lot of Toad.
True. I don't think I actually used it all day. It was there because I know that Mega Mewtwo with Yvette was not in anyone's favour. It was meant to give me the edge there by being able to put the Mewtwo's on the bench. It's a knockout. But in the end, I didn't hit any.
Looking at this list and the top 4, we've got Night March, Melodic, Seismitoad, Empoleon, Manectric, Crobat, and YZM or Vettel, Zoroark, Mewtwo. Do you feel like those decks are quite indicative of some of the tier 1 currently in the meta, or do you think that some of these are maybe lower down and had a good day?
Ooh, some of them definitely belong there, but I think some got lucky. I mean, we did have only 21 players in the top 8, so I think that helped some of them.
Specifically, I'd
For
like...
instance,
Sorry, yes, go on.
Daniel Brown's list, like, you won't see that anywhere else.
And I interviewed Andrew last week after he won your first City Championships. Amp, he was playing Gallade Octillery. Did you expect there to be much Gallade Octillery this weekend?
I was thinking 50% chance that Andrew would play it again, but other than that, I wasn't expecting anyone to jump on the bandwagon. That, and it's not an awful lot of Glades going around.
That's true. Moving on a little bit now, because I want to chat to you about your plans for the season. Just so everybody who's watching knows, at the start of every competitive season, the AceTrainer team does a player draft, where we each draft 5 players, and based on their points that they accumulate during the season, we get points, and the winner, of course, crowned at the end of the year. And Kale, you were drafted by a very handsome gentleman, if I do say so myself, in me, and congratulations on your win, because it is doing wonders for my fantasy team.
Thank you, and I'm sorry that I had to knock Dan out of top 8. Because one of us had to go.
That's okay. Well, as long as one of you ended up winning, I was okay with that. Do you have any main plans to travel for the rest of the season? We have another, goodness gracious, about 8 to 10 cities left over now, and then we've got the regional season coming up in mid-March, the start of August. Do you have any specific plans to travel?
Well, I'm fairly convinced I'm going to Sydney, but I haven't booked my tickets yet.
Mhm.
But in terms of regionals, I'll travel to most of them, but not all of them, because it starts really adding up when you're on the West Coast.
Of course, yes. Perth is a long way away from everything, especially places like Sydney, Brisbane, Canberra. Even Melbourne is quite a difficult trip to make, I imagine.
Sydney's somehow like one of the cheaper ones because there's so many planes. It's Brisbane, which is the real pain.
Yes. Brisbane has not received a double this year. Our
That
events
would
are
convince
scheduled on
me.
different seasons, so I don't imagine that there's going to be quite a lot of travellers coming to Brisbane for events, at least over the city's span. Will you be attending just the Sydney double, or are you planning to go the weekend before as well to the Newcastle City Championships?
It would only be to the doubles because
Mm-hmm.
it did me quite well last year. So I'm hoping to
Yes,
improve that.
absolutely. And just a couple more questions for you now. Going into this weekend, we don't have any events as it's pre-release time. I want to get your thoughts on what you think the upcoming metagame might look like. Now, in Australia, we've had 2 wins with Night March. Night March Milotic. We've had 2 wins with Night March Vesperquin, and we've had 2 wins with Gallade Octillery. So those 3 decks have been the most popular currently. Well, I say the most popular. Night March has by far and away been the most popular deck, but with popularity, of course, comes an increased chance of success. Do you think that those 3 decks are going to stay on top, or do you think there are decks out there that have a chance to do well against them?
Well, it sounds like Giratina and Toad which hates those decks. I mean, like, has a good chance against most of those decks. Gonna start pushing them away, but some are just too reliable to really start losing.
Hmm.
Sydney, I saw there's like so many Toads in that field, like the top 8.
Yes, yes, absolutely, and especially going into Canberra, there was a lot of Night March and a lot of Entei as well. Actually, that ended up making the cut. Is there a deck in the format now that you have seen that you haven't had a chance to play, or that you've been sort of keeping an eye on, that you really like that you haven't yet had a chance to test or mess around with?
I really like the Mega Mewtwo Y, just like the damage swap with Shrine, but I just can't figure out how to make it work perfectly. But it seems so fun, and I want to make it playable or win.
And we had a little chat before we started our recording this evening, and you don't know. You haven't had a chance to look through too many of the breakpoint cards, as you have been focusing the majority of your time on the current metagame that we have. If I could ask you a very simple question, and that is, what do you think of the time ticket card? I believe its name is
Yeah, play 4 of. Seems
time
similar.
puzzle.
It's like
Yeah.
what, except you have to get lucky to draw both. But being able to get whatever you like, energy back or whatever you need, rather than 2 random cards.
And just my final question for you, not this weekend, but the weekend after, we're going to have 3 city championships. We're going to have one in Brisbane, one in Sydney, and I believe another in Melbourne has been confirmed. So if you could pick the deck that is going to be the most popular over all 3, taking into account, of course, that this is just a guess, what do you think would be the most popular deck after those 3 events?
Either between Night March or Mega Mewtwo.
You think Mega Mewtwo will rise in popularity? It hasn't been very popular as of late.
I think surely with South Australia really pumping it up, it should hopefully people pay attention. I don't know.
Hmm.
It's been big here, and I saw that most of South Australia played it. So anyway, Night March and Giratina.
I have definitely agreed with you in previous weeks that Night March is going to stay as the most popular deck in the format, and I think that to do well with the most popular deck in the format is no easy feat, as there are going to be lots of people out for you and out to try and counter the deck that is going to be the most played. So I want to commend you once again on winning the City Championships. This is a fantastic start to the season. Is there any shout-outs that you'd like to give, or any special thanks you'd like to give to anybody before we sign off this evening?
Thanks to the guy who won with it in Melbourne, because I built it that the night he won, because I was between decks and he gave me a direction to go.
You'll be able to see in about 24 hours time I'll be interviewing Tonino, who was the man that won that event, so make sure to look out for that, because I'm sure that he will be very pleased with your shout out.
Thanks.
Anyway, Kale, thank you very much for joining me this evening. It was a pleasure to talk to you. Good luck for the rest of the season, buddy. And this has been Discussion Points, guys, Episode 3, Part 3. See you guys soon. Thanks very much.